What's going on, guys? Today I want to talk about my asset protection plan for advanced real estate investors. Please keep in mind that I am not an attorney or a lawyer, so this is just what I'm personally doing, and this is what I was kind of taught by my attorney. So before taking any of this advice, please contact your attorney. But let me show you what an asset protection plan looks like for an advanced real estate investor. So once again, I want to emphasize this is advanced. So let's start here. This is my, let me get my pen here. So this is my asset protection plan. So this is, remember, advanced for advanced real estate investors. So for some context, to show you how I'm advanced, obviously I own 90 units and about 12 million in real estate. So that's what makes me advanced, right? Because I don't want you spending all this money for this crazy asset protection plan if you don't have many assets to protect, right? So let me draw this little graph here. So I'm gonna draw this line down here, and then I'm gonna draw a little box down here. So on this side, I want to call this active income. So this is active money, uh, and then this is more passive money. So this is like where the real estate goes. So down at the bottom, I have my revocable living trust. So I'm called RLT for short. So what's nice about having a trust is you want to, this avoids probate court, and then delineates what you do. So what's nice about trust is that if you became disabled, let's say you're in a coma somehow, you had a stroke, you're placed in a coma, you passed away, this is going to delineate exactly how your assets will be delineated amongst the next of kin, right? So if you have kids, it's it's going to go to your kids. If you have a wife, it goes to your wife. You want to delineate exactly how your assets are allocated. So, for example, for me, if something were to happen to me, right now, my dad and my sister would inherit all my assets, and it splits that. My dad would get 50%, my sister would get 50%, and if I get married down the road, then I have to update my trust to state that my wife will get basically everything, and if I have kids, then they will inherit some stuff as well. So a local living trust, the moment you have one property, I recommend to have this and keep it updated because you want to avoid probate court, because if there's no clear guidance as to how your assets are divvied up, it's going to go to probate court and people have to go there, pay attorneys to try to get your assets. So a common example is a lot of people, they may be single, have no kids, and when they pass away, all the relatives are fighting over the assets, and that's why they go to probate court. So you want to avoid probate court, and then basically this has your will, and then it will share how they want to handle it. So overall, it's recommended to get a local living trust. It probably costs around maybe $2,000 to buy it through an attorney, but you want to have it at the bottom. This is kind of the foundation of your asset protection plan. And when you open your local living trust, you want to give it an ambiguous name, right? So name ambiguous, because you don't want it to be very obvious, like the Stephen Nguyen Trust. Like people know, who I am. You want to name it something like Blue Suede Living Trust. Keep it very ambiguous so that you're anonymous, and that's a form of asset protection right there. So, so once again, at the baseline of every asset protection is a revocable living trust. You want to avoid probate court. It has your will, and it gives you anonymity. So from here, let's just start on the active side. So here, this is where all your active income goes. So typically, I have an S corp over here. So this is an S corp, and this is where all my active income goes. So I have my Making Multifamily Money course, right? So anytime I have course sales, I'm gonna just make this MMM. It goes into the S corp. I have my direct mailing automation. So when I do direct mailers for my students or clients, um, I get paid a consultation fee on top of that, and I do it for them every month so that it holds them accountable and that they're just very busy. So it just takes one thing off their plate. So I'll just put direct mail goes into here. And then eventually when I'm monetized through YouTube, I'm very long way from that, but whenever I am, the YouTube, so YT for short, goes into the S Corp. So that's where all my income goes into. And this, from my understanding, is just purely for tax purposes. Because from the S Corp, you can issue a W-2, and then you can issue a K-1. So that's as far as I'll go into. But from here, the Revocable Living Trust owns this S Corp, right? So if anything happens to me, the owner of the new S Corp will be a relative of mine. So this is active income. So this S Corp, notice it doesn't own any real estate. There's no real estate here whatsoever. So right here for my Revocable Living Trust, let's start out here. This is going to be my holding company. So this is the holding LLC. And this holding LLC is going to hold all of my other LLCs. Right? So let's just say I got my, let's just call this LLC 1. And this owns my 26 unit. Right? And then let's just say I got LLC 2. This owns my 20 unit. And then let's just do 3. And this owns my mobile home park. Oops, my MHP. So let's just take a step back here real quick. So as you can see, it's pretty complicated, right? My trust owns my holding company, and my holding company will own all my individual LLCs that own my real estate. And a common question is, how do you know how many LLCs to own? It really depends on your risk portfolio and your asset allocation. So for me, my 26 unit, it's very risky right now, right? Because I'm doing heavy renovation, heavy value add. Same with my 20 unit. A lot of renovation, lots of value add. Mobile home park, same thing. A lot of renovation, a lot of value add. So because of that, I want them to be in their own LLC so that if something happens, so let's just say a tenant trips on my 26 unit, then they can only sue whatever is in the LLC and get that. They cannot touch my other properties, right? So that's the whole point of an LLC, is that you want to keep everything within that LLC so that if you get sued, they cannot go beyond that LLC. But this is assuming 2 things, right? To make an LLC legal, so let me write it over here. You need 2 things. Number 1 is, a business account, business banking. So basically, you cannot commingle your personal finances with your business finances. That's why you need a separate business banking account under your LLC, and all your income expenses must go into this bank account. All right, that's number 1. And number 2 is annual minutes. I'll just say annual minutes. So you need 2 things to make an LLC legitimate. You need a business banking account, so don't commingle your personal business finances, as well as your annual meeting minutes. If you do not run your LLC as a legitimate business, even though you have an LLC and a tenant were to slip and fall and sue you, they can pierce the corporate veil and come after your other assets. So that's why it's very key that you treat it like a legitimate business, right? So these are your LLCs. And, as you get bigger and bigger, you can kind of consolidate. So maybe once my 26 unit and my 20 unit become more stabilized and I'm done renovations, I can combine these into one LLC and reduce the number of LLCs that I need. And it could create a little more simplicity. But because they're considered high risk right now, I like to separate them out. And then let's talk about the holding company. So why do I need a holding company? Why can't my my trust just own each of these LLCs individually. And the reason for that is you want a charging order protection, or COPE for short. So charging order protection is, the way I view it is, LLCs protect you from your tenants, right? So if a tenant tried to sue me, they can only take whatever is in that LLC. They cannot come after my other personal assets and my other properties. But for a COPE entity, it protects my properties from me, right? So what does that mean? Let me give you an example. So let's just say I was driving down the road, I wasn't paying attention, and a family was crossing the road, and I hit and killed all of them, right? If that's the case, they can come after all my LLCs, all my LLCs or all my assets, everything. They come out everything. But by having that charging order protection entity, it can help mitigate that, right? So they can put a charging order against my holding LLC, but they'll only get distributions when I distribute money from that holding company. So I know this is really getting into the weeds here, and I may not be explaining it the best, but this is just my kind of basic understanding, is that if they place a charging order against this entity, they only get money if I distribute money from that holding company. But if you never distribute money from that holding company, they don't get anything from you, right? So typically, this holding company is based in Wyoming. And the reason for that is it's just very cost effective, number one. And number two is that it doesn't show your name. So it doesn't show that I'm the owner of the LLC. So it gives you another form of asset protection, right? So let me summarize that one more time. So I know that was a pretty heavy topic. So the LLC protects me from the tenant. So the tenant slips and falls in my 26 unit, they can only take whatever is in LLC 1. Assuming I run it like a proper LLC, I don't commingle my funds between business and personal, and I have annual meeting minutes, and I upkeep the business. They can only take whatever is in LLC 1, and that's it. They cannot touch whatever is in LLC 2. They cannot touch what's in 3. They cannot touch my holding. So it keeps it there, right? And the holding LLC, which is a COPE entity for charging order protection based in Wyoming, this protects my LLCs, LLC 1, 2, and 3, against me when I do something, if I do something stupid, right? So like I said, if I accidentally ran a red light, hit a family, and they want to sue me, they can put a charging order against this holding company, and they only get money when I distribute money from it, and I'll probably just never distribute money from it to not pay them out, right? So this is the basic level of asset protection, and the next level is insurance, right? So asset protection is always multi-factor. So what you want to do is you want to get good insurance for my 26 unit, for my 20 unit, and my mobile home park. So you want to focus on replacement cost insurance. So what is replacement cost insurance? So let me give you an example here. So I got my 26 unit for $500,000. If this 26 unit burned to the ground due to one kitchen fire, and I had to rebuild that 26 unit from the ground up, how much do you think it's going to cost? It's not going to cost $500,000. It's probably closer to $2 million, right? So if you buy the proper replacement cost insurance and my 26 unit burned down that I bought for $500,000, it's literally going to give me $2 million to build an A-class apartment complex from the ground up, right? By the time this building is done, I would have went from a C-class apartment complex built in the 70s to an A-class apartment complex built in 2022, because I bought great insurance, and I would still get paid monthly rent, because that's also part of the insurance, right? So you never want to skimp out on insurance. Never skimp out. You always want to get replacement cost insurance. That's why I teach all my students in my course. That was what I was taught, and that's what I will abide by. It's more expensive, it sucks, but you will regret it if you skimp out on insurance and your apartment burns down. Don't be penny wise and pound foolish. And the second, so each property has their own insurance. right? So my 26 unit, 20 unit mobile home park, single family homes, all of them have insurance. And on top of that, you want commercial umbrella insurance. So this is a second layer of insurance. It's between 5 to 10 million, depending on how many assets you own. So I'm probably closer to that $10 million range. And the way I phrase it is, let's just say a tenant in my 26 unit fell down the staircase and wanted to sue me for, let's just say, $10 million, right? So I'm getting sued for 10 million. And let's just say my insurance for my LLC, LLC1, only covers 1 million from the LLC1 insurance. So I still have to come out of pocket $9 million. So where do you cover that? You cover that with your commercial umbrella insurance. And what's nice about the commercial umbrella is it covers everything, right? It covers my LLC1, LLC2, LLC3, my S Corp, my holding company, everything. It covers everything. It's all encompassing, and it's very inexpensive because it's your second layer of insurance defense, right? So typically this is maybe about like $1,000 to $2,000 in terms of your expense. So, like once again, I went over quite a bit here, so I want to summarize it from the beginning. So here I have my revocable living trust. You want to keep the name ambiguous. It avoids probate court. It delineates your will. It delineates how your assets will be managed after you pass away. And this will own two things. The first thing it'll own is your S corporation, which is for active income, right? So I have my Making Multifamily Money course, YouTube income when I monetize, and my direct mailing automation service. So all that income goes into the S Corp. That will kick out a W-2, which I'm taxed on, and a K-1, which is a more tax efficient method. And that's active income. So notice there's no real estate here, right? Real estate's over here on the passive side. So on the passive side, my trust owns my holding company, which gives me charging order protection. And this holding company owns all my LLCs, which owns my real estate, right? Because remember, this LLC, you have to run it like a business. So don't commingle business and personal expenses, and do your annual meeting minutes, register your LLC annually. And once again, if my tenant falls on my 26 unit, breaks her hip, and they want to sue me, they can only take whatever's in LLC1. They cannot come off through 2 or 3 or my holding company, right? But then if I were to make a dumb mistake and got in a car accident, hurt a family, and they want to sue me, they can put a charging order protection against my holding LLC and only get money whenever they distribute, right? So that's another form of asset protection. And then next is you want insurance, focus on replacement cost insurance. So remember, if your apartment burns down, how much is it to rebuild that apartment? That's insurance you want. And then lastly, you want your commercial umbrella insurance of $5 to $10 million. So once again, if you found value from this video, please like, comment, subscribe. Please post a comment as to how you will change your asset protection plan based on this video. If you want to check out my Making Multifamily Money course or my direct mailing automation service, check out the link down below. And I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.